This is Hugh Dunstan.
And this is Tim Roberts.
We are here today to continue our journey of discovering how high demand amino acids, or HDAA, can optimize performance and reduce recovery times.
Hugh, we've identified 6 amino acids that are in high demand each and every day, and applying that knowledge to exercise, we know that when you exercise, you sweat, and when you sweat, our research showed that you lose these 6 high-demand amino acids in great amounts. So how do you see that this knowledge can be used to make a better form of rehydration, better form of recovery from exercise?
So focusing in on hydration for the first instance, when you lose these large volumes of fluid when you're exercising or working in hot conditions, the impact of losing a few litres can be quite substantial. So it's generally accepted that if you lose up to 2% of your body weight in water from exercising, this becomes a very critical level of fluid loss, and beyond this you begin to deteriorate in your capacity to perform. Your cognitive or your brain function diminishes somewhat. This means that your capacity to think ahead, to respond to situations becomes slower. And of course this affects performance in all walks of life, whether you're competing in a football game or if you're in a workplace where it's absolutely essential that you have proper attention and focus. Then when you lose that amount of fluid by dehydration, then this really has a severe impact on your capacity to perform. So the first stage is just about maintaining that fluid balance so that you don't get this impairment of brain function.
Just going back a little bit on that, if we're a 100 kilogram person and we lose 2%, that means we've lost 2 litres of fluid. Is that a normal finding? If we're running, if we're playing in a football match, would we drop down 100 kilogram to 98 kilograms?
Very easily. If we take a 70 kilogram person, we're talking about 1.5 litres basically, and that's very readily lost within an hour. Typically the rate of sweat loss is about 500 mils to 2 litres per hour, and higher if it's a high intensity exercise that you're doing. But it's very easy to lose that much fluid in the dehydration process.
So looking also at what is lost, before our research, everybody concentrated on making the Gatorades, making the recovery drinks to replace the electrolytes that were lost, the sodium and so on. And I think it's worthwhile just reflecting on that. First of all, that we showed you lose amino acids as well, but why should we be worried about the amino acids? I think, and why should they be lost in sweat? My understanding of that is that sodium, salt, is a vital component to the body. We need those sodium ions. So over our evolutionary time, the human body has evolved to substitute the sodium or to hold back the sodium that's lost by excreting in exchange the amino acids. That's a sort of a normal concept that a biochemist understands, but Hugh, can you put that in a bit more simple terms? What happens as the sweat from the sweat gland goes up through the sweat duct?
So sweat is actually formed in the sweat gland, and as it travels along the duct to the skin surface, there is a process of resorption of sodium and chloride. And as much as 70 or 80% of the sodium and chloride is resorbed in this process. Now, the fallout from that is that the body effectively sacrifices these key amino acids and also potassium in an exchange process to facilitate the resorption of sodium. And this is very important. The body has prioritized the fact that it needs to have this sodium. And this is very evident if you watch some of the marathon runners in the very hot conditions. What happens is that when the sodium falls below a critical level in the blood, then you get these twitches, spasms, and the body literally cannot function properly. And certainly the brain function is impaired as well. So when we look at this, it's about a whole package to consider. You've got the fluid, obviously, you've got to maintain the fluid level. You've got the electrolytes, they need to be replaced. And let's not forget the potassium, because the potassium is pushed out as well. And so it's a key electrolyte that's been lost. So you need to replace or replenish the sodium, the chloride, and the potassium. And the third part of the package are these high demand amino acids. And the reason this is so necessary is that when the body needs to replace them, it calls on its reserves, and the only reserves it's got are the proteins in the muscles. And so this is what we call catabolic response. It's the breakdown of muscle proteins that's required to actually provide the high demand amino acids for replenishment in the circulation system, because they need to be restocked in the circulation to support the exercise processes.
Well, that was a long answer. Just let's go back to the beginning for a minute. With the liquid, the very reason we sweat is when liquid water is changed in state to vapour, it cools the body. So we sweat so the body will cool, but we also have a system set up to save the amount of sodium and chloride that we're going to lose in the sweat. And we sacrifice these high demand amino acids if we're in a situation where our body is in a catabolic state, it doesn't digest our food, we can't get the amino acids needed from the food, so the body then starts to break down muscle proteins, which is very counterproductive if you're trying to use those muscle proteins to perform, to play better football, to run better marathons or run better 100 metres, whatever you're needing your muscles for, if the body is saying, wait a minute, we need these vital amino acids to build a protein that's might be a brain protein or a protein somewhere else in the body, it's going to say, well, we'll have to override your interest in exercise by taking some of the muscle proteins to break them down to give these high demand amino acids. I guess that would lead into an explanation of DOMS, of delayed onset muscle soreness.
Yes, so you've got a limited supply of what we might call soluble proteins for the muscles that act as a reservoir to be broken down. And once these effectively are depleted, you then begin to get a breakdown of the actual muscle fibre proteins themselves. And this is called fibrillar catabolism. And this leads to potential susceptibility to damage because you're actually breaking down the very fabric of the muscle fibres. And this can lead to pain subsequently. But just to get on to the performance attributes of HDAA, it's worth noting that when you are exercising or working manually, the blood is diverted from your digestive tract, so you can't actually take in amino acids by eating protein. You actually need to take in the amino acids in what we call a free form, so they don't need digestion. And so the simple strategy is that if you can actually take the HDAA during the exercise in breaks or between games or as you're going, then you're actually reducing the demand for the body to break down the muscle proteins. Now, if you reduce that demand for muscle breakdown of proteins, then obviously your recovery times are going to be faster because there's not such a requirement to build and replace new proteins in the muscle. So I think we've probably run out of time now, but just in summary, I think the key issues are that when you are exercising, you're losing fluid, electrolytes, and HDAA. You need to replenish with the full package of fluids, electrolytes, and HDAA. And this can occur very efficiently and effectively because all those three components are very readily absorbed in the gut, and you can take them during exercise, and even though digestion is not functioning fully, you can rapidly absorb these electrolytes and HDA and of course the fluid during and immediately after exercise. And one final note, this impact on your digestion lasts for several hours after exercise is finished. So the body continues ravaging the muscle proteins to get the necessary stores of amino acids it needs to begin the process of recovery.
Thanks, Hugh. I guess it's a bit like the feeling you play the football match and you don't want to eat for an hour. You want to drink, but you don't want to eat for an hour or so because you're still in the catabolic state. And then after that hour or so, the body switches back into the anabolic state and you suddenly want to go off and have a steak because you want to get those amino acids back into the body. But in that catabolic state, more damage can occur and more delayed onset muscle soreness the next day.
Okay, that's all from us today. So you can learn more about HDAA by typing HDAA nutrients into your search engine. And remember, HDAA for active humans.